Hey there, nonprofit entities of the world. Thank you very much for attending this very special webinar going over how to maximize your Aplos setup. My name is Aaron Hernandez. I am a customer success specialist here at Aplos, and today I have the pleasure of helping you guys better understand what steps you'll want to take in order to get your Aplos account set up properly. So this is going to be a webinar that's tailored to help those who are either in a free trial or those who have recently subscribed to Aplos that just need some help understanding what the next steps are in order to get everything set up in your Aplos account. So whether you're financially focused or people or giving focused, we're going to go ahead and go over all those steps involved so that you can get everything set up the right way, or at least in the right direction, so this way you can have a very successful experience within your Aplos account. So to get things rolling here, what we're going to do first is jump over to this People tab on your main navigation menu. So up here at the nav, you're going to go ahead and click on People, and then you'll see several options that you can click from, and we're going to go ahead and go to Contact List. So Contact List, this is going to be the Rolodex of your people. So anyone that you have entered in the system, whether they are a donor, an accounting vendor, maybe a staff member, whoever they are, they're all going to live within this one contact list area. And so in order to add new contacts into the system, there's two ways to do it. The first way would be to just manually create contacts in this part of the system. The second would be to import some contact data that you have on an Excel file. So I'm going to show you examples of how to do both of those. So the first way, to manually create, you'd want to click on this green box with a plus mark icon. There's a lot of areas on the donor management side of the system that have this green box available. So if you're ever trying to add anything new, just keep in mind to look out for that green box with the plus mark. So you'll click that icon, that'll open up this blank form for you where you can then enter in the details of that new contact. So you can start at the top, are they an individual or a company? If it's an individual, what are their first and last names? If it's a company, what is the company name? And then underneath you can start plugging in the phone numbers or emails or addresses, any events that you've attended. If you have any custom fields, you can add values for those, so on and so forth. You can even put in a profile picture for that contact if you'd like to. Once all the details are entered in, then you have two options at the top to save that information. The first one here for Save and Add, this will allow you to save the contact you were just working on, and will also bring up a blank form again so that you can fill in details for another new contact. The Save and Close option, this will allow, got a little ahead of myself there. The Save and Close option, this will allow you to save the contact that you're working on, and then it will close out of this screen and take you back to the main contact list screen. Or you can just cancel if you don't want to save this information. Alright, so that is one way. The second way, again, would be to perform an import. So if you have your contact details from an Excel file, say from your previous software solution, you can go ahead and click on this import button at the top of the page, and that will take you to this importing screen. On this screen, we do have a template that you can that you can reference. So if you download the template using this blue link here, that will download an Excel file to your computer, which is going to give you a template which will just give you a better idea of what your file should look like before you import. So you should have at the very top column headers that describe the different details that you are trying to enter in. So if it's maybe a type, so individual or company, their first name, last name, company name. If you track birthdays, you can do that. Phone numbers, emails, addresses. So you want to make sure at the very top again that all those column headers are listed, and then your details underneath that. Once all the details are plugged in, then you can just go ahead and upload your file on this screen. I have a test one ready to go, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that file from my computer here. So import test. Oops, this one here. And then we'll choose that one. So now I've assigned that file here. I'm going to now go ahead and click Upload File. And so once I click Upload, all the information that was on my file here was going to be uploaded or shown on the screen here. So here are the details for all the contacts that were on that file. So from here, there's the next step to do would be to map out all these different columns that were on your file. So as you can see, those column headers you previously had, they're now showing up as the row. And so for each row, you want to map them out to the appropriate area within Aplos. So for example, this contact ID, if I had any information there, I could go ahead and select contact ID so I can map it to the appropriate area. Since I don't, I'm going to leave it set to do not import. But for the rest of this information, I'm going to want to fill it in. So type, we're going to go ahead and select type, company name matches with company name, first name with first name, last name with last name, so on and so forth. So you can map out all this data. When it comes to phone numbers, emails, and addresses, the mapping gets a little bit complex there, so we're going to go ahead and talk about that for a minute. So if you, for example, for phone numbers and emails, if you have multiple items for those, so multiple phone numbers and multiple emails that you're tracking for your people, when you get to the mapping portion here, there's only one option to select. So whether it's a work phone, a mobile phone, or a work email, home email, you only have one option to select for each category. So right here you'll see phone number, and then you'll want to mark the rest of those as phone number as well. Alright, so once you've mapped, for example, phone numbers, once you've mapped all those out properly, once you import the information, as long as the column headers have the appropriate categorization, so work phone, mobile phone, other, the system will automatically place those into appropriate areas. So it's not going to list them all as work phone numbers. It would list one number as the work phone, the other number as the mobile, and then etc. from there. Also important to note is that if you do have multiple pieces of information, whatever is in the furthest left spot will be marked as the primary. So in this example here, I have my work phone, my mobile phone, and my other phone, work phone being the furthest to the left. So when I import, this phone number in this column will be marked as the primary. If I have a contact that does not have that information in that field, then wherever they do have information would be marked as the primary. So the same thing would happen with email addresses. So email, you would just select email address and email address, and then whatever is furthest to the left would be marked as the primary. And then as long as you have clarification for which each column is for, so like a work email or home email, the system will go ahead and divvy those out into the right areas. As far as addresses go, you can have multiple addresses. And what will happen is once you start working on one address, you'll see options to include data for additional addresses. So for example, my first address here, I'm going to say this is address 1 street 1, address 1 city, address 1 state, address 1 postal, and then address 1 country. And then when I get to the next address, I'll see that there's an option for address 2. So I want to go ahead and select all the details for address 2. So address 2 street 1, address 2 street 2, address 2 city, and then so on and so forth. And then if I did have an additional address, now I'll see that there is a third address that I can add on. So address 3 street 1, address 3 street 2, etc. Alright, so once you have everything mapped out, then you can come over to back to the far left side here, and you can click one of the import contact buttons here. So the one at the top or the one at the bottom. Something else to note is that you'll see this yellow button that says re-import contacts. So as the message states here, if you want to make changes before importing your data, you can click this yellow button to discard the current data that's showing on this page, and you can start from scratch. So if you noticed on the information that got uploaded that there were some issues that you need to fix, you can always go ahead and just use that re-import option to start from scratch so that you can make your changes on your original file and then re-upload it so you can perform the import. Otherwise, if you are ready to go, like I said, just click one of these import options. And then let that information load, and then if it goes successfully, then you'll come back to this contact list screen, and you'll see all of your contacts that were from that file. So here they are, all my people, the one company that I had, and if I click into any one of them, I can go ahead and see that information that was for them. So their email, their phone number, their address, that information will also live in this part of the contact card as well. Alright, and so once you do have your contact data going in, then you can do a lot of more things in this people area, such as creating and managing households. You can build lists to keep track of different groups of contacts. You can also build out custom fields, so if there's additional information that you are wanting to track for your people, like maybe an ID number or a t-shirt size, you can go ahead and create those types of fields. You can also start utilizing the check-in feature that we offer. So if you need people to check in for certain events you're hosting, you can utilize that type of tool to manage that. So again, for people, this is how you would go about building that foundation of your contacts so that you can go ahead and start working in other areas of the software. All right, so now that we got people going, the next place we're going to jump to is going to be the fund accounting side. So fund accounting, this is going to be for those who are focused on the financial end. So how do I keep track of my day-to-day bookkeeping needs? So in order to build out the foundation of that area, where we're going to go is under accounts. We're going to head to account list. So account list, this takes us to the chart of accounts screen, which is essentially the backbone for the entire accounting piece. This is the area where you tell the software everything that your organization needs to keep track of. So if it's your assets, your liabilities, the different funds that you allocate for, the income and expenses that you track, all that information will be listed here first. So once you get to this page, you'll see a few different things that you can do. The first one at the top being creating your funds. So in Aplos, a fund is something that you are wanting to allocate for within your organization. So the question we like to ask is, within my checking account, I need to set money aside for blank. Whatever that blank is, whatever you can fill it with, that is what you're going to want to create as a fund. So if you're a church, this could be something like different ministries, so maybe like a men's ministry, women's ministry, children's ministry. It could also be a missions trip that you're doing. If it's for another type of nonprofit, it could be maybe a fundraiser that you're doing or a project that you're working on. Whatever the situation calls for, whatever you want to set money aside for that you need to see a running balance of, that is what you're going to want to create as a fund. So in order to build those out, you would just start by clicking Add Fund in this section. You'd give this fund a name and then a color. So for the name, let's go ahead and just call this one, Projects Fund. All right, and I'm going to assign it a color. So the color helps you distinguish that fund both here on the chart of accounts page, as well as in the other area of the software called the register. And within the register, we give you this fund balance chart that you can look at, and so the color here just helps you reference what fund you're looking at on that chart. So for this case, I'm going to go ahead and say maybe this is going to be a reddish color. So I'll pick that, and I'll click Save. So now under my funds, you can see I get this green successfully added message. And so now under my funds section, I do have that new projects fund, and then the color. So then after you build out your funds, you can scroll underneath to this account section and you can start building out the other types of accounts that you need. For example, your assets, let's go ahead and click into that asset category here. And so you notice there's some default accounts in there already, but let's say I need to add a new bank account. Maybe it's a secondary checking account that I have. So the first thing I want to ask myself is, what group should that account be in? Is it going to be under current assets? Is it going to be under fixed assets? If I don't have an appropriate group, I can always add one. So from this button here at the bottom of the section, it says Add Group. I can click that and add a group title. So this is something like maybe Other Current Assets. I can call it whatever I want to here. And then just click Save. And so now that creates a new group within the asset category. Wherever the applicable group is, when I want to add a new asset account, I want to click on the plus mark icon next to that appropriate group. So for example, if this new checking account of mine is part of my current assets, I'm going to go ahead and click this plus mark icon, and that'll drop down a menu where it can start entering in the details of that new account. With each account, you are required to enter both an account name as well as an account number. We typically recommend going off of the GAAP, or what's known as the generally accepted accounting principles. So what that means is that your asset accounts would be labeled in the 1000s, your liabilities in the 2000s, your equities and funds in the 3000s, your income in the 4000s, and then your expenses in the 5000s and above. Again though, those are just recommended values. If you have a numbering system that you're familiar and comfortable with, you are more than welcome to continue using that system here in the software. For our example's sake here, let's go ahead and call this one 1111, and then the name of that is going to be Checking 2. Alright, so once you get those details filled in, you can select a type for this asset. So the type refers to how you want to use this account. So for this particular asset, do I need to use it as a register, or do I need to assign it as an accounts receivable account? So use as a register, this means that you want to be able to record transactions to this account, and you want to see a running balance of that account. So this would typically be something like a bank account, like a checking or savings, or even a credit card. So if that is the case, you just want to click on Use as a Register. If this account should be associated as a place to hold balances for your invoices or your bills, aka accounts receivable or accounts payable, then you would want to go ahead and select the second option on that list. So this way you can build out invoices or build out bill payments to that particular account. All right, so that is the type. Next up is activity. An activity refers to one of the reports we offer called the Statement of Cash Flows. So Statement of Cash Flows report, this helps you keep track of the cash movement that's happened within a certain period. So in this activity field here, you just want to designate what type of account this is. So is this a cash account? Is this an operating account, an investing account, or a financing account? Whatever option is applicable, just go ahead and select that. And that is how this account will be listed on this one report called Statement of Cash Flows. The last thing you can do here is create a sub-account. So if this account should be a sub-account, just check the box in that field, and then underneath, just state what the parent account should be for this new sub-account. Once everything has been filled in, then go ahead and click Save, and that will now save your new checking account into this category underneath the appropriate group. So here we are in Assets. Under Current Assets, there is my new 1111 Checking 2 account. If I want to review the details again, or if I need to make a change to some information on that account, I can simply click on it here, and then I can go into any of these fields to make the appropriate changes. If this account needs to be part of a different group, that's actually a pretty easy thing to do as well. So say, for example, Checking 2 actually needs to go under Other Current Assets, not Regular Current Assets. So in that case, I can use this little hamburger icon, the 3 lines on the left-hand side, and I can drag and drop that account into the appropriate category. Wherever you see that blue highlighted landing, that is going to be where your account is going to actually land at. So if I drop it here, now my Checking 2 account lives under this new group for Other Current Assets. And so you can do this at any time. You can move around this information. You can always update a number or a name. Your accounts won't be locked in, so you can always go back to make those types of changes if desired. And then if you did make a change, it would retroactively update all the information that is currently existing in the software, so you don't have to go back and make any changes there. Alright, so then you can keep on moving on. Before we move away from chart of accounts, I just want to show you this other type of account you can create. So income and expenses, it's very similar to create those types of accounts. The main difference with these is that you have a little bit less options than an asset or liability. And you also have this new one that's called Fund. So Fund, this allows you to assign one of the funds you built out to an income or expense account. So this way, whenever you are recording a transaction using this income or expense item, the fund you've selected will automatically fill in for you, so you don't have to manually select it when recording transactions. So in that case where it says Fund, you just click in here and you can select one of the options. And then again, when you start recording entries using this income or expense account, the fund you've selected will automatically fill in to help you save some time. Alright, so moving away from chart of accounts. Oh, actually one more thing I did want to mention. So this is how you would build out your chart of accounts manually. If you have a set of chart of accounts that you want to use within Aplos, you like it, you've used it in a previous system and it worked out great for you, so you want to use that same chart of accounts in Aplos, we can import the chart of account information for you if you like. So there isn't a way within the system to do that, but if you email us your chart of accounts, we will go ahead and import that data for you. So in order to do that, and it's completely free to do, there's no charge for that, so all you need to do is just have your information on an Excel file. Once you have that Excel file available, just go ahead and send it to our team at support@aplos.com, and then we can go ahead and import that data for you. If you do have some time and you want to clean up your chart of accounts a little bit before we import, there is a template that we have available which is the preferred way to give your information to us. So let me go ahead and just share that with you here real quickly. Alright, so we're going to bring that up here right now. And so here is the template that you can reference. So if you can, it would be very helpful for us if you could just copy and paste the information for your chart of accounts onto this template. So this is just telling us the account number, the account name, what category is the account. So is it an asset, liability, income, expense? What group should it be a part of? What type should it be? What activity? If it needs to be associated with a fund, go ahead and sign that fund there. And then if it's a sub-account, what should the parent account be? So you just want to copy and fill in the different columns here. And then once you do that, just send that information to our team at support@aplos.com. And then we can go ahead and, like I said, import that data for you into your account. So you don't have to type in all those accounts yourself. If you have any more questions on that, please feel free to let us know. We'd be glad to help you out there. For those who do want to import chart of accounts, you go ahead and go into our support center. So this little question mark icon at the right hand side. And this takes you to our support center, which is where we keep all of our tutorial videos and articles that go over different tasks you can accomplish in the system. So I'm going to go put in importing chart of accounts. Oops, mistyped that one. Alright, so importing your chart of accounts, you can select that article, and then within that article, we actually give you the file here for that account template. So if you want to look up this article in our support center, importing your chart of accounts, and then we have that template available so you can download it and start copying and pasting your information onto it. Alright. So that's the chart of accounts. So once you've built out the chart of accounts, the next starting step you'll want to do is put in your beginning values. So to do that, you'll want to go under accounts and go to the starting balances page. So the starting balances page, this is going to show you a list of all of your asset and liability accounts that you've created, and then a column for each fund that you've built out on the chart of accounts area. So when you're ready to put in your beginning values, so for example, say my checking account here has a beginning balance of $5,000. If that $5,000 is split amongst my funds, I'm going to go ahead and put the appropriate values under the appropriate fund column. So for checking, let's say that 2,000 goes, actually let's say 3,000 goes to my general fund. Let's say 1,000 goes into my building, and then 1,000 goes into my projects fund. So all those totals combined leads up to the $5,000 number that I'm looking for. If my total balance just needs to be put under one fund, then I can go ahead and do that as well. So like my savings account, if that all should just be part of my building fund, I'm going to go ahead and put the total maybe $3,000 that I have in that building fund. Alright, so it's a pretty simple process from there. So as you can see, I don't have to click save. As soon as I type in the value, the system will automatically save those beginning balances. Alright, and just to clarify this before we move on, your starting balances, they should be as of the day of your first transaction in the system. So if you are starting in Aplos as of January 1 of 19, let's say, so the first transaction that you enter in is dated January 1, your beginning balance is going to want to be reflective as of the beginning of January 1. So whether it's beginning of January 1 or technically end of December 31 of 18, you're going to want to select that date so that your balances line up appropriately on the financial end. Alright, so hopefully that helps answer those questions there. So after you put in your beginning values, the next thing you're going to want to do starting off is creating a budget. So if you go under this budgeting page here, it's going to take you to the module that will allow you to build out an overall budget for your organization. So from here, you'll want to start by clicking Add Budget and then entering in what fiscal year you are working on. So for example, if you have a fiscal year of January through December, technically right now you would be in fiscal year 2019, so you can go ahead and just put in 2019. If you're an organization that kind of has an overlap in your fiscal period, so maybe you do July through June, so then in that case, wherever your year starts, so if your fiscal period starts July 2019 and ends in June 2020, you're going to still want to put 2019 as your fiscal year, since that's the calendar year that your period started in, was July of 2019. So once you have your year in there, go ahead and click Add. And so now you'll see this manage screen where you can start plugging in the details of your budgeted values. So going down the page, you'll see a list of all those income and expense items that you've created. and then a column for the budget value. So this is where you're going to want to enter in the annual budget values for those different line items. So for example, my 4,000 account here, let's say that has an annual budget value of 10,000. All right. And then my building grant income, maybe that's a budget value of 5,000. And then I can keep on going. Salaries, let's say this one is going to be another 10,000. Rent, let's say that's 8,000. And then building expenses, let's say that's 10,000. All right, so I have all those values put in, and again, those are my annual budget values. As you probably noticed, the system automatically saves those values once you've typed them in, just like the starting balance page we were just on. So you don't have to actually click save in order to hold in that information. But again, those are for the annual budget values. If you are an organization that maybe does things on a monthly basis, or there are certain line items that you need to budget differently for each month, what you can do is click the box at the top that says Show Monthly Breakdown. And that will show all the months of your fiscal period, so that you can click into the appropriate month and put in the correct value for that month. If you want to show more information here, such as last year's budget, last year's actuals, this year's actuals, you can go ahead and check the appropriate boxes for those. And then you can also build out a 3-year budget from here. So if you want to budget for 2019, 2020, and 2021, just click that box at the top, and that'll open it up so you can put in the values for those other 2 years. All right, and then once you have your budget entered in here, you'd be able to go to the reports area and start running budget reports to see this reflected information. All right, and then that wraps it up for the financial end. So once you have your chart of accounts built out, once you have your beginning balances entered in, and then once you've created a budget, now you're ready to begin recording transactions in the system and then run your financial reports on that data. So we're not going to cover that part, but this is the starting steps you'll want to take in order to get ready to actually dive into the accounting side of the system. All right, so then that leads us now to the giving portion of the software. So for those who are focused on your giving, so how you receive contributions into your organization, we're going to go ahead and jump into the donations aspect of the software. All right, and so with that, we're going to jump to this donations tab on the navigation menu. And the first place we're going to go to is the purposes page here. So under donations, we're going to purposes. Purposes is the backbone of the donation piece of the software. So this is very equivalent to what the chart of accounts is for the accounting side. In short, a purpose is just any reason why someone is giving to your organization. So if you're a church, this could be tithes and offerings. This could be a mission trip that you're doing. For other types of nonprofits, this could be, again, a project that you're doing, maybe a fundraiser that you're having. A lot of times the purposes that you build out will line up to what your funds are, but it doesn't always have to be the case there. So if you're thinking of what could a purpose be, start with thinking what your funds are and see if those actually match up with what your purposes should be. But again, purpose is just any reason why someone is giving to your organization. Once you build out, just to show you, let's go ahead and build an example purpose out here. So to start, you'd click on the green box at the top, and that will drop this menu down where you can enter in the details for that new purpose. So let's go ahead and just call this one my summer project. All right, and then if I wanted to, I could put a description. Disabled, if I want to disable this purpose, I can. And then sequence refers to where you want this purpose to show on this purpose page. So as you can see on the left hand side, you have sequence numbers. So this is number 1, number 2, number 3. So all this does is just shows, again, where this purpose is displayed on the page. It doesn't matter for any other aspect of the system. So if you want to, you can change that number, or you can leave it set to the auto-filled placement. Underneath that, though, is an area for you to link this purpose to an income account and a fund from the chart of accounts area. So once you have those two items connected, so the income account and the fund, and you start recording start recording contributions using this purpose, the system will not only collect the contribution record for the donor, but it will also post in a deposit on the accounting side of the system. So essentially doing two things at once for you, creating the contact or the donation record for the contact, and then also creating a deposit on the accounting side so that your books are in balance at the same time. So from here, let's go ahead and say that this summer project should be part of my contributions income account. and it should be tied to my project's fund. Alright, so once I have all those details filled in, I can click Save. And so now, right here is my new summer project purpose. And then if it has been linked successfully, it'll show this blue chain link icon on the right hand side here, letting you know that everything is linked up properly. If your purposes are not linked up, then you'll see either this red exclamation mark or you'll see a broken black chain link. So in those two cases, that just means that your purpose has not been linked to an income account and fund. So you may want to go ahead and link those up. Alright, so then once you have your purposes built out, you can start recording your contributions. You can start doing other aspects of the system as well, such as getting your online donations going, even creating events, and building out the pledges that you'll be receiving as well. So kind of moving along that same track, the purpose is the number one thing you'll want to do on the donation side as far as setup goes. The next thing that you'll want to do is set up online donations. So in that case, you'll want to come under donations, go to this online donations tab, and then underneath that you'll see the first option for online donation forms. So you'll want to click there first. This will show you this screen here, which will allow you to start the process of creating your online donations now. And so we work with a company called WePay. WePay, very similar to someone like PayPal or Stripe. They're a processing partner of ours that will process those online payments that are made. So that is included with your Aplos subscription. There's no additional cost to create the account and no monthly subscription cost for it. It's just all included with your Aplos subscription. Once you create that WePay account, then the next thing the system will walk you through is creating your first donation form. So the two ways that people can make a donation within the Aplos system is through an online donation form or an online donation widget. A donation form, this is a web page that is built out that will have its own unique URL so that you can place that URL link either on your website somewhere, in an email. You can also share it on social media. A widget is something that you would embed into a website that acts as a pop-up form. So your donors would just see a button on your website. When they click it, they'll see this little form pop up on the screen so that they can go in and insert their payment information for the donation. So those are the two ways that you can collect donations. So for this trial account that we're using, I'm not going to go through the process because it does take a little bit of time to set up the WePay account as well as get that form going. But I do want to show you an example of what the completed process would look like. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to this tab here, and here's an example of what a donation form would look like. So at the very top of the form, you'd be able to put in your organization's logo if you have one. You can put in a title for the form, you can put in a picture and some text to go along with it. And then underneath that, you can start plugging in details for what you want to track from your donor. So we automatically place the fields for first name, last name, and email address. But if you want to track more information from your donors, so you do have that ability to. So something like maybe an address or a phone number, even custom fields, you can add all of those to the form if you'd like to. And then as far as the donation portion, you can set up some predefined amounts that your donors can give to, or that you can allow your donors to put in a custom amount. Your donors do have the ability to give either a one-time gift or recurring gift, so they can just set up the schedule from there if they want to do recurring. And then you can also allow your donors to select which purpose they want to give to. So for the purpose, they just see this drop-down menu where they can select the appropriate one they want to give to. You can allow your donors to leave a note for the organization. And then the very last thing you can do is allow your donors to pay for the transaction fee if they like to for their donation. So if they did want to, they would just simply check the box on that line. Otherwise, they can leave it unchecked. Once everything has been filled out on the form, then they'd click the button at the bottom and they'll be shown a payment area where they can enter in their payment details. As far as how the different payment methods that are available to your donors, they can pay either with a credit card, it's like a Visa or MasterCard. They can also pay via ACH. So ACH being like an e-check process where they put in their banking details, like their routing number and account number. As I mentioned earlier, there is no additional cost for creating a WePay account. However, there are still processing fees that are applied to each donation. So for the credit card method, it's 3% plus 30 cents for each entry. And then if your donor is paying with an ACH, it's going to be 2% plus 30 cents. And And then if you have anyone that's paying internationally, so like with an international credit card like American Express, it's going to be 4.1% plus 30 cents. Aside from those fees though, there are no additional costs to do the online donations. And the great thing about using us as a platform for your online donations is that we automatically track the transactions for you in the system. So we not only collect the contribution record for that donor, but we will also post the deposit on the accounting side so that your books are going to be in balance automatically. And then your donors also receive an email from us saying thank you for their donation. If they have any questions, please let our team know. All right, so that is a sample of the form. Over here is going to be the example of the widget. So here's a sample web page that I have. I have my little donate button here. So when I click donate, that again pops up a form on the page. So that it's very similar details as to what the donation form had, but now they just kind of see it in a smaller way. So they just click on which predefined amount they want to give, or if they want to put a custom, one-time recurring, what purpose, if they want to pay for the fee, so on and so forth. All right, and we do have an additional resource that actually goes over the process of building out an online form or widget. So if you do have more questions about how to get things set up after you've built out the WePay account, go ahead and let us know, and we can go ahead and get you that information so you can see. Or you can also go to the support center and then just type in online donations, and it goes over that process as well. All right, so coming back along here, so under donations, after you've done online donations, something else that you can do if you're interested in the giving aspect of the system is create events. So events, this would be an event registration tool. So what you can do from here is if you have any events that your organization will be hosting, you can build out those events, and then you can set up either a free or paid ticket so that people can quote unquote purchase a ticket so that they can register for this event that you're hosting. So let me go ahead and walk you through what that process would look like. So starting on the events page here, you'd click the green box at the top, and the first thing you're going to want to do is enter in the details of that event. So you give this event a name. So because it's the summer, we just love summer so much, we're going to say this is a summer festival. All right, and if you want to include a description of the event, you can. What time zone is the event going to be in? When is the start and end date of that event? So let's say this is going to happen, on Friday. It's going to start at 8 in the morning, and then it's going to end the same day on Friday, and it's going to end at, let's say, 4 o'clock. All right, and then registration open and close times or dates. So then we're going to go ahead and say people can register for the event as of today, and then the registration will close as of the beginning of Friday. So let's go ahead and just say 4 o'clock on Friday. I did say beginning, but let's go ahead and do the end. So registration open and close dates and times. How many seats are available for the event? So let's say that we have a max capacity of 100. So we'll just do 100 seats. Cancellation policy. If there's any type of cancellation policy you want to include, then you go ahead and do so in that section. And then after that, you're going to put in the details of the location of that event. So location name, if you have a location that you've used previously, you'll see that pop up here. Otherwise, you can build out a brand new location from scratch. So for location name here, let's go ahead and just use test location. And then let's say this is 123 Main Street. It's going to be in Anywhere, California. And then postal code 12345, country US. All right, so after that you can put in a image if you'd like to. So for this one, let's go ahead and see if I have any images that I can use. All right, we're gonna go ahead and use this one for now. This looks like a kind of fun summer one, so apply that one. So you can apply the image to your event here. You can add a headline here, so something like the best fundraiser ever, or in this case we're going to say wildly fun summer festival. And then if you want to, you can include a detailed description of what this event is again. And then after that, you have a section for social media. So this does not apply your event to your social media sites, just to make that clear. What this does, it will produce links on your form that's going to be built for your different social media sites. So if you have a Facebook, you can put the link to your personal Facebook account, your organization's personal Facebook account, Instagram account, or Twitter. So you just provide those links here, and then on the final form that's published, your people will be able to see links so that they can go to your different social media sites. Once you have everything in there though, just go ahead and click Save and Continue. And then that takes us to the second category, which is tickets. This is going to be how people can actually register for the event. Again, as I mentioned, you click Add Ticket, and then you have two options that you can build. You can create a free ticket or a paid ticket. So a free ticket is just going to be for someone who just needs to simply register for the event you're hosting. A paid ticket, it means that you want someone to pay like a general admission fee to get into the event. So whichever one you want to do, we'll do an example of both. So free. So for a free ticket, you need to first include the ticket details. So what is the ticket name? So let's say that this is just free admission. You can put a description if you want to. So how many tickets are going to be available? Let's say there's going to be 50 of these tickets available. Next up is the question of how many seats are included per ticket. So out of these 50, so with each ticket, how many seats is that actually purchasing? So does one ticket equal 2 seats, or is it a straight one ticket equals 1 seat? Whatever you want that to be, you'll want to designate right here in this next section. So we're going to say that one ticket equals 1 seat at the event. So we'll just click 1. And then after that, you can put a start and end time for when that ticket will be available. So we're going to say that that ticket's available as of today, and then it will not be or it will only be available until tomorrow. And then if, for example, you actually had multiple seats that were included per ticket, then you can select the option underneath here for collect information per seat. And so this would allow you to collect like a first name, last name, email address, and phone number for each person that will be attending. But since it's just a 1-to-1 ratio, you don't have to do that next step. You can also select the option to display remaining. So on the form itself, it'll display how many tickets are remaining for this particular ticket. And then lastly here is for attendee info. So this is where you can actually track the information you want your people to fill in. So do you want them to put, over here you'll see the available fields. So from here you just want to check off which ones you want to display. So first name, last name, email address, phone number. Again, that will be information that your people actually type in when they're purchasing their ticket. If you want to make these fields required, there's a second column for required that you'll want to mark off as well, which means that they have to fill in these details. Otherwise, if you leave something like phone number not marked as required, it'll just be an optional field that they can bypass. All right, so once everything is good here, then you can click one of the save options at the top. And so you'll see the details for that ticket here below. Now let's go ahead and do the paid ticket. So the paid ticket is going to be a very similar process, except in the middle you have this section for pricing details. So for pricing details, what you're going to want to do here is say how many tickets can be purchased per person. So can one person only purchase up to 5 tickets at a time, or can they only purchase 3, or whatever that looks like. So you could put in the number there. So let's go ahead and just say that the 1, for example. Select a purpose. So in order to track these transactions, they do have to be assigned a purpose. So whatever purpose you've built out, you can go ahead and select from here. So let's say that this is part of the summer project. Or actually, better yet, let's go ahead and say this is a summer event. Alright, so I've selected that purpose, and then the start date and end date for when this ticket will be available from. So let's go ahead and say today, and then these are going to be available till the end of the event. Price of ticket, so this is where you can actually say how much is the ticket going to be worth. So let's say that you want your ticket to be worth $50. And then fair market value, this stands for what is the actual cost of the ticket. So for example, if it really is only the ticket's only worth maybe $10, but you still want people to pay $50, so you can put the price as $50, the fair market value as $10, and so what will happen is $40, the $40 extra that they're paying per ticket will count as a contribution that they can then write off on their taxes. So if that's the case, if you want to do that, you can just put in this type of this pricing. So $50 would be the full ticket value, but it's only worth $10, so the $40 would then be counted as a donation that they can write off later. Otherwise, if the full value is also the fair market value, then you can just say 50 and 50 in that spot, and so then they won't get any contribution they won't get any taxable contributions listed, so it'll all be just considered non-tax deductible, meaning they can't write any of that off. If you need to include additional prices, so for example, if you want to say, because this event is Friday, if we want to say today tickets cost one price, tomorrow they'll cost another price, and then Friday there'll be another price, then you can go ahead and add those different prices and put in what day you want that price to be available from. Alright, and so once you have everything filled out, then you would just click the save option to save that ticket. Alright, moving on here, we're going to go ahead and click save and continue. Next up is going to be payments, and so this is asking how you want your people to pay. So do you want them to be able to pay with a credit card? Do you want them to be able to pay via ACH? You can also allow an option for people to click to pay later, so pay at the door, like with cash or check. Then you can also include an option to have your registrants pay for the transaction fee if they want to. Because if they do pay online, it's the same transaction rates because we're still using WePay to process those transactions. Alright, once everything is good, then you can come to the publish option here, and then you can click publish, and then you can review your event after that. And so now here is the final version of our event that we just created. So we have the banner image at the top, the title of the event, the date and location, what tickets are available, how many do I want to purchase, and then whatever number I choose, it's going to show me a summary at the bottom so that I can go ahead and proceed, so I can either complete the registration or enter in my payment information so I can purchase those applicable tickets. And then those transactions, if I didn't mention already, are also going to be tracked on the accounting side for you. Alright, perfect. So that went into a little bit more detail, but hopefully that gives you a better understanding of how to build out events when you're ready to do that. So then the last thing regarding setup that you'll want to do is set up the users that are going to have access for your Aplos account. So to handle those users, that's going to be located in this last icon here on the navigation menu, which is this little gear icon. This gear icon stands for the settings section, and only those who are listed as full administrators will be able to see this settings area. So under settings, you'd want to go to the users page, and from here, this is where you can see everyone that has access to your Aplos account. So then under here, if you want to add a new user, just click the add user button at the top of the page. And from there, you'll be able to enter in the details of that new user. So their first and last name, the email address they're going to be using to log in with. You can also select role permissions for your users. So if you want someone to be an administrator, you just check the box for administrator, meaning they'll have full access to the entire system. Or you can select some other roles, such as read-only access roles, if you only want people to be able to just see the information, not actually enter data. And then you can also select multiple roles. So if you want someone to be an accounting manager so that they can do whatever they need to on the accounting side, but you also want them to maybe be your web builder manager, you can check that option off. So now that person can handle your books as well as handle your website. Whatever that situation you want to do there, you can pick and choose from those permission roles. Once those have been selected, then you can enter in a password for that user, which they can update the next time they log in, and then just click save once you're done. Once you do that, that user will then be listed on the main page, and then if you ever need to come back and make changes to one of your existing users, you can simply click on their name and it'll take you to the details screen so you can update any applicable information there. Alright, so before we get going, the last thing I do want to show you too, so as far as including more people to be a part of your Aplos experience, we've talked about users, we've talked about people, so then the last thing I want to show you is this groups and teams area here. So groups and teams, this is a group management tool which allows you to build out different kind of groups or teams within your organization. So really what this does is it allows you to create a group or team. So for someone like maybe your board members or volunteers that you have, or for a church, maybe it's different ministries that you have, so that they can access a private portal where they can schedule meetings, share documents with between one another, and even sign up for volunteer opportunities. So it's not connected to your main Aplos account, so the people who would be listed as members of that group or team wouldn't be able to see all of your Aplos data, but they would have this private portal that they would access where they can kind of communicate between the different team members. They can also, like I mentioned, share documents, etc. So if you are interested in that, this would be a great area to do that. We do have a separate webinar that goes more in depth on how this tool is run. So if you want more information on that, just let us know or look in the support center, and you'll be able to find a resource that's available for that area. All right, perfect. So we've made it to the very end. So thank you for sticking around for that. So these are the basic steps that you'll want to keep in mind as you're building out your Aplos account. So hopefully this information proves helpful. Just to let you know, every step that we've talked about today is actually part of a resource that's available. So if you go into the support center and you type in quick start, or if you look into the getting started category that we have available, you'll see an option for a quick start guide for accounting and finances. So this is going to be kind of the general overview. So if you are accounting and finance focused, you'll be able to learn more about, you'll be able to review those steps of adding your people, creating the chart of accounts and budgets, and then building out the purposes, online donation forms, etc. If you are someone who is just kind of people and giving minded, then you want to go ahead and look for the quick start guide for people management and giving, which will be this, again, the same information we talked about, and it just does not include the financial aspect. So you'll just see for people, creating purposes, events, all that stuff. So you can always reference this information anytime you'd like. All right, so with all that being said, thank you very much for attending the webinar today. If you have any questions at all, like I said, please feel free to let our team know. Our support is always free for you, so we are always willing and able to help you out. Thank you again, everyone, for showing up, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.